Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Texans favored by 4.5. Will Levis and C.J. Stroud should both be back.
Both the rookies back.
Which gives us Levis, Stroud, 1. Their first matchup.
Yeah. Which is interesting because that's how.
Or is it? Is it 2? Shoot.
No, they didn't play the first time, did they?
Wasn't this one of Levis's first games?
No.
Dude, somebody fact check me.
I think it actually was. No, because Stroud wasn't. Was that the game he got hurt in? This is a disaster.
Yeah, this is bad.
No, it was Case Keenum was the first time. We're good.
Oh, that was just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, Levis, Stroud, 1.
Oh, they just played 2 weeks ago. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That was dumb.
But it was the throwback game.
Yeah, that was the overtime game. Man, I can't stand when division teams. I can't stand when they play 2 times in 3 weeks.
So Levis, Stroud, 1.
Let's see. Levis, Stroud, 1. Here we go. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be amazing.
Which is good because I had Levis above Stroud in my draft rankings.
Oh, this will.
So far, it's looked great.
What are you rooting for? Justification.
Yeah. I need one game ever where Levis just balls out, outplays C.J. Stroud, and I can at least have 3 hours of vindication before Stroud goes to the Hall of Fame, and Levis may or may not keep the starting job long term.
Obviously, both Levis and Stroud have given a lot of hope for both teams. Stroud even more so than Levis. I mean, every quarterback in the top 15 has had MVP hype at some point, but Stroud was getting that, right? He was elevating his team, leading comebacks. The last time we saw him, however, though, was the Jets game. It was a weather game. It was a tough Jets defense, but it was a disaster for Stroud for that offense. So that's the last thing we saw from Stroud. I think that hurts his overall production and numbers.
And the game before wasn't great either.
Yeah. So, again, even keel, PFF NFL podcast, we all admit, I mean, Stroud's been fantastic this year, but we always still want to see more data, more information. And again, I was saying, look, going back to Mahomes again, when Mahomes struggles, when Aaron Rodgers went through his struggles, there were these times when he just wouldn't play within structure and would only want to play outside of structure. And I was seeing hints of that from Stroud earlier this year, when his game is playing within structure, going through his reads, throwing pinpoint passes with great footwork. That is Stroud's game. And he slightly got out of that in a few games. And it still worked. He was outstanding outside the pocket. Like, that's not his game, but he was doing it well. And I was just saying, like, just don't lean on that too much, CJ. And then he did end up having his worst couple games after that. That's all. Just something to keep an eye on with Stroud. I want to see him run the offense and do what he does well, which is throw the ball accurately and on time, and don't try to create too much unless it's there, unless you have to. And when he has to, again, he's been pretty good at it. So that's what I'm watching for here with Stroud coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game for them because Houston is now sitting there at number 8. You know, they're the first team on the outside looking in from the AFC point of view, even though they're 8-7. The Colts, though, are the team directly above them. Like, they have a shot to get in still, but they need some help, and they need to win games first and foremost. So Stroud coming back, obviously it's a different dynamic than it was with Case Keenum in their quarterback. But a couple of the last things we've seen from Stroud haven't been amazing. They not only did Stroud go down, but they've been getting banged up in terms of the receiving core as well. Obviously Tank Dell with his broken leg is a difference from earlier in the season, but generally that group has been not healthy, whereas it was earlier in the year. Like, it's a big game for them. Tennessee is a defense that can cause some issues. It's not, the Titans obviously haven't been good this year, but it's a test at least of whether he's back, whether he's ready to go. And then the other side, Houston's defense is really good as well.
We were trying to give so much credit to the Shanahan scheme, to our friend Bobby, to everybody about their ability not just to elevate quarterbacks systematically, but the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then you have a game like last week where, again, I mentioned Charlie Heck had like 10-plus pressures allowed. Charlie Heck playing right tackle again this week. They may have hit too many injuries up front. I think Tunsil's banged up. I mean, it's just not.
I mean, I think there's always a limit to that stuff. You can help and you can make things look better schematically, but if you have an absolute total liability at one of your key offensive line positions,
Tunsil's fine.
It's still, you're not going to be able to overcome that with scheme necessarily.
Both edges, Will Anderson hasn't played the last couple weeks, Jonathan Grenard. Both of those guys are questionable with ankles and did not participate in practice yesterday. And I think injuries are starting to catch up to Houston.
Yeah.
With Tennessee, again, they don't have a great offensive line, but if the Texans don't have their edge rushers to take advantage of it, I think Stroud, even without Tank Dell, though, there will be plays to be made on the outside against these Tennessee corners. So that's something to keep an eye on. And you never know what you're going to get from Will Levis. He's had a couple good games before the injury, always has that big playability. He's always going to try to leap over somebody or drop his shoulder into somebody. I mean, again, must watch, must see TV with Will Levis.
Yeah, I mean, also, I wonder how unencumbered he's going to be coming off that ankle injury. I mean, we've been in this weird season where
he won't change.
He won't change?
No.
You don't think? I mean, he might not change in terms. He's still going to launch his shoulder into people, but like, how spry is he going to be on that busted ankle? Or are we?
Oh, how spry? Yeah.
Yeah. Or are we in this world now where quarterbacks are just able to shoot it up, get out there with tape, and we're good? You never know that they're injured. Like, Trevor Lawrence came back from an ankle injury, and the only evidence of it was some weird passes where, like, why did you throw the ball right to the safety there?
Right.
But you wouldn't have known. Like, if you didn't know that the week before he had an injury that looked like he was done, if you hadn't seen that and you just saw Trevor Lawrence in that game, you wouldn't have highlighted, hey, I think his ankle's hurt.
Mobility-wise, no,
so,
not at all.
You know, is that going to be the case for Levis, or is he going to be hobbling around the place and not quite 100% physically? Either way, like, the Levis thing to me, he's shown the flashes that everybody's been wanting to see from Bryce Young, and in a vaguely comparable situation in terms of awful offensive line. He's probably got some more weaponry in the pass game, but it's still not good. I mean, he's working in a bad situation, and he's made it work, or at least shown the flashes to be able to make it work, and outperformed Ryan Tannehill, you know, who's obviously a veteran quarterback. Like, Bryce Young has not outperformed Andy Dalton, whereas Will Levis has outperformed Ryan Tannehill in his situation. So I think from a Tennessee point of view, you have to be very encouraged by what you've seen from Will Levis. It's just now we need to actually repair this whole thing around him and see where he can go.
All right, man. Houston favored by 4.5. I think it's going to be entertaining. I think the AFC South going forward is going to be very entertaining. Houston by 4.5.
Titans.
Levis. Oh, man. Doubling down on Levis. Give me Houston covering the 4.5. The most important playoff implications here is if Jacksonville wins and the Texans and Colts both lose, the Jags have the division. They'll have the tiebreakers and they'll have the division. So that's that's what we're keeping an eye on for the AFC South. And then next week, I'm sure the scenarios will be out of this world.